Betsy, and it hurt my feelings a little bit, but I know he's going to make it there. Yes. Such a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you so much to the Jamaica Observer team and, of course, to Novia for keeping this industry together and keeping us connected. So I want to start with like a brief background story about my restaurants. Mystic India opened in 2011 in Iron Shore, and a few years down the line, Mystic Thai was in 2016 in Fairview, right where Fontana is. So these restaurants were a long-standing dream, since this was what I had studied in Mumbai in 1995. And for my husband of that time, it was just something he wanted to do for his wife. So it wasn't his real business, but more like a hobby, right? So we did pretty well, changing the dining scene in Montego Bay for a few years. Mystic India was also part of the Half Moon Resorts as their restaurant on their website. And so we were doing, as a hobby would do, interest, but more from a passion point of view. And it was all pretty exciting till I separated from my husband of 20 years in 2018. Took over the business completely as a divorce settlement. And soon this hobby became my bread and butter. 2 years went by and I was finally getting over the fear of being able to do this on my own, tripping along the way. Not much of a choice, but pretty well handled. And for those who know anything about the restaurant business, having takeouts and catering as a substantial part of your food business is crucial, so as not to completely depend on diners. So in that area, we started doing phenomenally well, catering from 200 to 1,800 people at a time. And then we started traveling to other countries to cater as well. All through word of mouth, we had created the brand, as PJ said, right? And then we had specials all the time. We were doing, different things, trying to keep, re-innovating ourselves, keeping it going. And then came COVID. And we panicked. I panicked. After a good and successful internal battle, I closed Mystic India on the 18th of March, 2020, a week or so after the first case of COVID hit. A lot of conflicting emotions and discussions later, I stood firm in my decision, sent back about 6 chefs and managers to India, had zero clue as to what direction to take, but really went with my gut instincts, completely tuning out all the external chatter. There was this whole talk about, it's just going to be a month, it's just going to be 6 months, don't worry, don't close, you're going to get it back. And I was like, no, I just felt it in my gut, and I was like, this is what's happening. Turned out to be the best decision of my life. So a lot of businesses suffering around us, and being ahead of the game, we already had websites, so QR codes were instantly available. We followed all protocols, quickly able to pivot and provide what our customers were looking for, safety. Focusing on what people would need in a time like this, I started racking my brains on frozen foods and deliveries. And the deliveries happened to become island-wide. And since there were no other Thai restaurants in Jamaica, we were extremely well received, and we survived, and a little more than survived. We thrived. We moved the entire menu from Mystic India to Mystic Thai. And with the deliveries, we were doing free deliveries within Montego Bay. So we didn't really lose a lot of business on the other side of town, which is about a 20-minute drive. People didn't want to drive, this way to come. But then because we were doing deliveries, we were able to sustain that part of the business, right? And now we were doing business of 2 restaurants from 1 location with reduced rents and utilities. So in a nutshell, we started thriving. One of the biggest tools that we had as restaurateurs was the ENDS program that the government came up with. And that helped us tremendously. We were allowed to be on the road, at times, and we all had letters. The whole team was doing this, and it was just phenomenal. So the 3 things that I learned from the pandemic: listen to yourself, really believe in yourself. You know what's best for your life, nobody else. Don't follow the crowd. You're never going to get there, but find your own path. And make the determination to win, no matter what. Once we are able to master our minds and shift the internal thought to positive, nothing can stop us, not even a pandemic. We just have to decide that we are going to make it happen. So going through all of this, we were very out there, with the deliveries, and we had lists, broadcast lists for each city. And we were sending these out, and we would have a pickup location. People would come and pick up their food, or if it was Negril, it was easy because it's smaller, so we delivered personally. And then we started to change the game. Once the country started opening back up, the weddings came back in full force. Everybody wanted to get married. It was crazy. And I was like, okay, the limit, I think it turned to 50 at one point, then it went to 100, then it went to 200, and it kept increasing. And I think we were doing weddings every week, and these are all clients from America and Canada, a lot from Canada. Indians who want to do destination weddings. They've been waiting 2 years for this thing to come out, and everybody, all the resorts were like, we need Indian food, right? So at the beginning of 2022, I knew I was thriving because I had doubled my company's worth. And then we started getting full on the dining side of things. We were busy on a Monday night, we were full, we were turning back people, and people just wanted to go out. They were tired of being home. Then, we got to a point where we were not able to take walk-ins because, we kept saying no to people, and we actually had people getting upset that there was no table available. It was like, okay, really sorry, but this is not my fault. Like, you can see that the restaurant's full. I'm not seating you. So now, and this has been happening all of this year. We've been, trying to deal with reservations, and now we're in a process of strategizing on how to deal with the no-shows. Because they started making the reservations, they got the drift that this place, you can't go there without a reservation, they got the drift. But then there were no-shows, and we were losing tables again, right? They would just make the reservation because they thought they were going, and they never showed up. And then, now we are thinking about taking credit card deposit for reservations online. And so they have to be really 100% sure that they're going to make it because there's money down now, right? It works, of course. It's in the works, and but it also could be a turn-off because people are not very, interested in leaving their credit card online or putting down a deposit and whatever. So it could we're still working on the logistics of it. Even though I've seen it work perfectly in other countries, it might take some catching on here in Jamaica. Anyway, so these were, going through some of those amazing weddings that we did here and in other countries. And then came my big fat Indian wedding. June 2022, the talk started in January. They had heard of us catering in Panama, so it was a politician's son, and so this guy, the groom, wanted a sit-down 10-course meal for 150 people. And I'm that sort of person. I'll take on a job and then I'll learn to do it later, right? This particular job made me very wary of myself and my ability to say yes without thinking. I do think now. So there were other events that we were doing, but this one was only family. Indians were all about family, and it's like big, like 150 is just family alone. Okay, all the other events going on, and there was a lot of people, but this one was 150 only family. So I was like, okay, my cheeky little self said to me, of course you can do it, it's only 150 bags, you've done thousands, no biggie. So I flew my team down to Panama, and on the day off, I freaked out, literally. It's like, how did you say yes to this? This is crazy, okay. 10 courses into 150 is 1,500 plated dinners in the hands of 50 wait staff and busboys who only understood Spanish in 3 hours. And me, who knew no other words besides no habla español, and a whole list of vegetables in Spanish trying to resolve this. So my brain starts running. This is the day of the event. And I had to do some serious meditative chanting. That's something that I do as a practicing Buddhist, chant every single day. And of course, I do believe that is why I thrive so exceptionally well. My faith in the beauty of life itself. So I reduced the courses to 7, which brought down the plating considerably. Let's get to the plating. This was the wedding. Yeah. I'm going to come back to these pictures. Yeah, 150, one by one. And I had a conversation with the groom and his decorating team. The place where they were setting me up to serve was a 45-second walk from the wedding hall. I refused and I said, no, I need to be right beside the hall. A 45-second walk for waiters was cold food service, which is a no-no in my books. Anyways, the groom was wonderful, a politician's son, so as wonderful as they get. He made his decor team put up a sound wall. I'm going to take you back to the setting of the hall, which was like a mesh tent, if you can see, and we were right beside it. So the groom had the decor team put up a sound wall, and I got the space right beside the wall, so it was a 4 or 5 second walk to the tables. And we started at 7 p.m., ended at 10 on the dot, and at the end of it, I sat on the floor and could not move for 30 minutes. The most terrifying experience of my life is I did not know for the life of me how it was going to go till it was actually over and done with. The reviews came back. My groomzilla was super impressed. He was even mentioning me in his wedding speech, and of course my team. Most terrifying, but the most gratifying experience ever. Also one of the most beautiful and memorable weddings in my life. It was just amazing. I mean, from the pictures you can see, but the feeling of being in that fairy tale setting was just unbelievable. So, so pretty. That's the team, Spanish speaking. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my pandemic story from surviving to thriving. And if I had to choose another line of business, I would not. The service industry runs in my blood, and I would not have it any other way. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes. Slow man.
Regarding expansion, right? Have you given any thought about maybe inside of Europe or outside of Montenegro? I kind of sort of know the answer, but
Yeah.
on your one.
We're in the process. Yeah, I wasn't really going to bring it up, but yes, we're coming. We should be opening in Kingston by March or April of next year. Anybody? Yes.
You spoke so confident about the people, and I really admire you for taking that risk on the way. What was your biggest fear entering the pandemic, and how did you overcome that fear?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. My biggest fear was that, so at that time when we just came in, the pandemic started March, April, we didn't know what the businesses were going to look like. We didn't know. I was convinced that people are not going to want to spend money. They're not going to want to get out. They're not going to dine out. They're going to cook at home. Everything negative that I could think of came to my mind. And, you kind of have to go through the process. Like PJ said, trust the process, right? Everybody is going to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. They're going to wait for that light, and it's not. But with me, it was actually quite the opposite. So when people are facing something unknown, food becomes a comfort. Wanting good food becomes a part of the process, and we realized this, and quickly, started really focusing on the deliveries and not just sitting back and saying, okay, whatever happens, happens. Really, making the effort to reach out to people, letting them know that, listen, this is a possibility. This is what we're doing. We're coming to Kingston. This is the date. This is the time. We're coming to Negril. This is the date. This is the time. There was one day, one of the first deliveries when Ocho Rios, we were going to Ocho Rios. The ENDS program was not in places yet, and my delivery person had passed the curfew time, 5 o'clock. These people, so we took payment online, and we sent out the food. So these people have paid for their food. They're waiting, 5 o'clock. Curfew time has passed, and the delivery person was late, and it was such a drama. But then what we did is we got some friends to pitch in and like pick up the food from her and just like disperse. So really being very proactive, you know, and really stepping up and knowing that any fear can be overcome. It's very important, and there will always be a way out. You just have to keep striving for the way forward. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Morning again, everyone. What advice could you give to the students here today when they get to that point where they own up, set up their own catering business or restaurant or catering and restaurant? What are the main factors to keep a customer? Once you've got a customer, how do you keep that customer coming back to you? If you could give, I don't know, several factors would be awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Intention. What is your intention when you are, you know, in conversation with a customer? Is it just to make that particular day's money and move forward, or are you really trying to build a relationship with your customer? So I always tell my servers, it's not about today. It's not about. Yes, today is important, but are your customers coming back? That's how you play out your service. So it's not, if someone says, I don't like this, and they send it back, don't feel like, oh man, my dish is going to go to waste, and what am I going to do? Don't, just build that. They're not complaining because, there's genuineness to that complaint. You have to be able to, identify what that is. You'll have those problem childs as well. In the business, you will always have people who will come and say, oh, I don't like this or whatever, just complain just to complain. And then you'll be able to identify the people who are actually there genuinely complaining. So really build your relationships, take it back, don't charge them. Just understand your module of business. It's very important. Intention is literally the most important thing in any aspect of life, not just business. What is at the back of your mind? You have to love what you do. You have to love what you do. If you are not liking what you're doing, please find something else. It's just not worth it. You're wasting, your time. And it does take a little while to understand what you love as well. So give yourself that. Give yourself that, like PJ was talking about, moving from his own family business and going to work for somebody. He knew that something inside him would have said, no, let's try this. Let's do this, and just look for that. Never ignore that gut instinct. Never ignore your heart. Your heart is very important. Where is your heart at? Very, very important. Answers the question, Yeah. Sorry.
Morning, how are you?
Good.
Good. My question is, you took on this challenge, and I know you had to maintain your composure in order to get everything ready and prepared. You spoke about flying your team down. What were your strategies to keep them equally composed so that they could do their job efficiently and effectively?
Thank you. I was freaking out, but it was only on the inside. Yeah. Like I'm freaking out right now, but it's only on the inside. So, the team that I went with has been working with me for 6 years, right? And they know me in and out. They know how I work. They know, how passionate I am about doing a job right. So they're very confident people, and I think that's part of the team building process that we're always talking about energy and putting love in the food, and like if anybody says, wow, the food is so good, I always say it's the love, and I promise you it is. Okay. So really, again, coming back to loving what you do is very important. The end game was that every single of those 150 people enjoy the food, get it hot, get it on time, get it serviced properly, even though there was communication issues. But and the other challenge that we did face was that if someone had a question about anything on the dish, the servers didn't know, and that is something that I was very, very skeptical about, because for me it's very important for the service to be able to answer questions. Very, very important. So with respect to that, we were, I had already explained to my chefs, and I had a translator also, a young boy, a friend's son who went with me just to translate. And so we had him in the meeting, we spoke about that if someone comes with a question, the servers were told that if someone asks a question, come to us. We have 5 of us standing here, come to us and we will come with you, with the translator, to answer those questions. That was an aspect that we were really worried about, because they were not all Indian people. The bride was Panamanian, the groom was Indian. So there were a whole set of the Panamanian side of people as well who definitely had questions. So really, looking forward and putting yourself in the place of the guest and saying, okay, if I'm a guest and I'm experiencing new food, how am I going to feel? What would my experience be? Would I want to know something? Would I want to change something? Would I need more hot sauce? Would I need something to reduce the spice? We usually use yogurt to reduce the spice. So we had all of this prepared and ready to go. So, the team was very well informed. They knew what we were going for, and it was 100%. We're 100% on the consistency and the flavor and the taste of the food. We have no qualms. We are on top with that. When it comes to the service and things that can go wrong, we talk about it. We talk about it all the time. And when we experience an issue, we speak about that even more than the positives. Like when we're in a complaint, or something has not gone right, or the food went cold, we constantly are discussing it. So my team was ready to, even if I had picked out on the outside, they would have been okay.
Karina, let me ask you this. PJ spoke to empowering his staff. In other words, he doesn't want to be there all the time. Yes, I said it, PJ. Karina, I've noticed that you are always on spot. How important is that?
So with me being I have a bed in the back of the restaurant. Sleep there. No, I don't. But again, it's conversation. Communication is key, right? For most part, I have been very hands-on with the business. But of course now with Slo's question, we're diversifying, so I know I'm going to have to be in Kingston more. So in this last year, I have been creating those sort of positions in the restaurant where people are there only to do what I do. The customer relationships. My sister's in the restaurant now, and she's doing phenomenally well. So she understands. She sees me working. She sees how I handle people. So and I made her aware of that. Like, this is why you're here. So when I'm in Kingston, you're going to be able to, this is how you're going to show up. You're going to show up as me. She looks a lot like me. We're like almost like twins. So, we could almost get away with, oh yeah, hi, how are you? We get hugs all the time, and I don't know the person, but I'm hugging you. Okay. Oh, I thought it was your sister. Okay. So, I feel like you have to be very, very aware of what you want your business to represent. You have to be very on point with how to deal with situations. When a situation happens, it's, again, coming back to the communication, it's extremely important you speak about it. And not just to the person who's directly responsible for that situation, the entire team needs to know, so that when it happens to them, they are going to know how to deal with it. And you don't have to be there at that point in time. They just know, right? Yes.
Alright, so I really feel like you're the perfect person for me to, talk to, because this is actually what I want to do. I want to do, the catering and maybe one day open my own restaurant.
Amazing.
But I find myself always asking myself how, because I see all the work that needs to be put in, and I keep looking at myself and asking myself, how am I going to do all of that? So I just wanted some insight from somebody who has actually done it as to how do you manage everything that needs to get done, all by yourself. in both categories, in the catering category, which is like setting up everything, making sure everything goes right, and looking at profits and all of that. Because sometimes I feel like it might be really hard or impossible to get a good profit based on everything that needs to be done. And in the restaurant side, like how, just like how do you make everything happen? That's really what I want to know.
Thank you for that question. First of all, love what you do, right? I feel like this is something that you're going to have to go through. You're going to have to, there's going to be stages in your business. In the beginning, it has to be about building yourself, creating a name, and really working on how to be able to become somebody in the industry that you're working in. So really, put a lot of, it's going to take a lot of time and energy. The restaurant business is not a very easy business. It's long hours. Yesterday, I saw this meme on Instagram. It said, being in the restaurant business is very gratifying if you're, okay with missing important life events and not seeing the sun so much, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. So you really have to know that you have to be ready to work hard. This is something that, and it has to be very hands-on. You have to be present. You have to be in contact with every aspect of your business. Like, PJ was explaining that, there's accounting, there's inventory, there's the front of the house, there's back of the house. If you own a business, you have to know how to do each part. You have to you don't have to do it all the time, but you have to know how to do it. Very important. So that if you're short staffed, someone doesn't show up, you're able to put it in. You're able to put yourself in, you can pick up the slack, so to speak. That is very important, and we do that all the time. We have 2 or 3 of us who, in the restaurant, if there's a shortage of servers or, somebody in the kitchen, we can step in anywhere. There's a few of us. And again, team building is very important. You cannot do everything by yourself. Find the right people. Find the right people and tell them how you see your business. Tell them what your vision is for your business. And if they agree, they'll stay. If they don't, they leave, which is fine. And you'll find the right people. You will, because they're out there who are just as passionate as you are. I have a manager with me who's been working for 8 years, and he's not going anywhere. He's going to move to Kingston. Yeah. He loves what he does, and he works many, many hours more than I do. And now his sisters come down. He's from Nepal. His sisters come down, and she's with us as well. So finding the right people is also again about intention. Are you willing to let go? Are you willing to not micromanage? Are you willing to delegate? All of that, it's a process. You learn it as you go. It's not something that's going to come, the day you start your business. It's not going to happen. For any business for that matter, you have to, go through the pains, fail a little bit, trip. Like I said, I tripped along the way. There was one time where I forgot to pay my GCT, and that was a big bill. Yeah. So, and then after that, of course, it's been 4 years. I've never forgotten to pay my GCT, right? But that's how you learn. If you're not going to be able to make mistakes, you're not going to be able to know, what it looks like to make a mistake. You can't know good if you don't know the bad. So give gratitude for the mistakes. That's what is teaching you how to become bigger and better, right? Does that answer? Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that you transitioned from Indian to Thai. How was that transition for you? And then how was the transition of starting the business with your husband and then having to do it all by yourself as a woman in the business? As you mentioned earlier, it is not the easiest of business. Speak to us about some of the challenges that you faced during that transitional period.
Thank you. Your mind has to be stronger than your fears. Yeah, you have to know that you're going to make it, right? Being a woman in business is not easy, and I've had my share of experiences that have made me feel really bad at times, but I've pushed through it. I didn't let them, push me down or, set me back in any way, because I had made up my mind that I'm going to win, right? Another thing is to be able to, again, coming back to the passion of things, you know, really loving what you do. It's always coming back to that, but understanding this, you know, and really about what you are representing in this world as a woman. For me, it was a big, like the fears were so many. They were so deep rooted because I come from a culture where I'm Indian, women don't do anything. You know, they stay home and they take care of kids. That's the culture I came from, you know, and I have 3 kids. And in spite of it all, you know, taking over the business was a big learning curve. It just kept, every month I learned something new, every month. But the thing is not giving up. Never give up. You always keep moving forward and you will win, you know, because we have so much more potential within us than we give ourselves credit for. We really have everything we need inside us and all we have to do is pull it out. And you know, the way of pulling it out is, again, your mind, you know, the chatter. You have to really be able to control that and say, okay, you know, this is my, you know, idea for this month and this is what has happened. How am I learning from this? You know, I forgot to do this, I didn't do this right, I, you know, completely messed up on this. How am I going to come back on the right path and not make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again, right? Thank you.
Question here.
Sorry, excuse me, can you just use the mic for me, please? Excuse me.
Excuse me, do you want to come up here?
Okay, in the meantime,
Okay,
oh, she doesn't like.
Sorry, I'm coming.
okay, good afternoon. I see where you get your staff from overseas, right? But I'm wondering if said staff is used to train the Jamaicans worker, if you have any in the field, because being an art graduate and most of my courses is with Jamaican cuisine, where I think they should be teaching other cuisine apart from Jamaican cuisine. So I'm wondering if you have any Jamaican workers and do you let the said workers there from overseas train them in the field so they can become equipped to prepare the said meals?
Absolutely, yes. So in Jamaica, for every overseas staff that you have to have 6 local staff in your company. So we have 2 Jamaican chefs in the kitchen who are learning how to make naans. And of course, there's a turnover point in that aspect because they come and go. So, and Indian food is not something that's very easy. There's an Ayurvedic formula behind the Indian food. So the spices that go into a dish and, you know, the way things are done. Like, I don't know if you've heard of this tandoor oven that we use. So there's a process, it's a learning process and it's kind of a little intense because, you know, from the oven there's a lot of heat and some people can't take it so they move on. But yes, we do make sure that we train. In fact, for one of the weddings in Panama, I had a Jamaican chef who went with me and he was in charge of all the breads. You know, he did completely, like he knew what needs to be done, he knew exactly how to, you know, make the dough, everything was done by him. So yes, absolutely, I get what you're saying, but there is a ratio of overseas versus local stuff. Yeah, I just want to come back to, give me 1 second. The transition from Thai, Indian to Thai, I forgot about that. I'm Indian, but I love Thai food. That's why the transition. Like there was no Thai, and there still isn't any Thai restaurant in Jamaica. So besides, okay, yeah, yes.
Right.
So,
So
can I just make a quick announcement? The driver of a silver BMW 1316JB, could you check with the security, please? That's a silver BMW 1316JB.
Right. What I wanted to ask was, you said Mystic Thai is coming to Kingston, right?
Mhm.
So is there any networking opportunity that you see for yourself?
Networking as in
Partnering with any restaurants around the area or any specific brands that you would associate yourself with?
well, we already have a formula that we work with, so we know the companies that we're working with, you know, from because it's companies are island wide, so it's like, you know, the people that we would work with are like CPJ, you know, Select Brands, Arosa, Bedco, all of these, you know, Grace, Rainforest. So these are our main core, you know, supplies. And then with the Thai food, of course, there's an element of using products from Thailand, like the paste and the galangal, which is like an Indian Thai ginger, lime leaves, all of that is imported. So there is a certain aspect to that as well. But in terms of networking, like connecting, you know, a collaboration with other restaurants, no, we're a freestanding restaurant. We're going to be doing this on our own. Thank you. Are we done? Thank you.